This is the story of Mary Stofer Duke, aka Memaw. But she wasn't always a grandmother. Before we trace her escapades, let's take a look far back into Memaw's ancestry. Her mother's side of the family, the McClintocks, originally came from Scotland, then Ireland. In the 1700s, the McClintocks made the long voyage to America, settling briefly in Pennsylvania. By 1787, they had already put down roots in Nicholas County, Kentucky. Several generations later, in 1857, Alexander McClintock married Cornelia Darnall. They settled down in Millersburg, Kentucky, and started having children, 8 of them: Willie, Charlie, John, Mary, Pat, Emma, Sam, and Alexander. Emma turned out to be Memaw's mother. Born in 1870, her full name was Emmeline Louise Landis McClintock. In 1899, Emma married Samuel Carrington Stofer, who was born in 1871 in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, to a farming family. The young couple moved into Emma's parents' home, Aylford, in Lexington. That's where, in 1901, Memaw's older sister was born, Cornelia Darnall Stofer, Aunt Nene. Then, in 1904, on May 28th, Mary McClintock Stofer was born, Memaw. As they grew up, Memaw and Aunt Nene stored up memories. Memaw remembers early visits to her dad's family's farms.
It was wonderful to go up there and spend maybe a weekend, or sometimes I guess we spent as much as a week. Cousin Emily had one child, Frances, so we just grew up together. I mean, we played together and had a wonderful time. And of course we did all the usual things, milking cows and in the country, and wake up in the morning to fried chicken and hot biscuit and all that sort of.
I really don't remember, but she says I was real mean to her. Tell her I was going to pull her toes or, I don't know, do something to her if she didn't do what I told her to. I had a great big backyard with a horse barn, and we had a pony farm. Well, we disappointed our father because he had hoped that we would really just ride it all the time, but neither Memaw nor I liked to ride. We were afraid.
This, of course, was always a tremendous time, and for years we'd get up early in the morning and ride the interurban, which took us out to Uncle John's house. They had a big home out there, and we'd have a great big Christmas dinner. Mom, as I say, at one time they had so much money, and she would go to New York every year and buy up fabulous gifts for all of us. And one year she bought a whole wedding out. She bought the church pews, the bride and the groom and flower girls, and each of us got one doll, you see. I remember I got a best man with a silk top hat. Really made an impression.
Maud had her wedding party. Yeah, that made a big impression.
And another impression that made that they had at the dinner table butterballs where the butters rolled. So anyway, I thought it was cheese, and I ate one, and they all laughed at me, and of course I cried. Paul was very gentle, very kind man. I'd say he was something like Papa. Loved to hunt and he loved to fish. He was very particular about his food. And he wanted to come home every day for lunch.
Okay.
And we always had a servant at noon. The servant would come get breakfast and lunch, dinner, go home, spend the afternoon, and then come back and get dinner.
Okay. Okay.
And I never saw a sandwich on our table. And everybody loved Mother. And but she was forever sending trays of food to people, and she was sick so much of her life. And Mother and Father were the kind of people that took in everybody.
Okay.
Anybody on both sides of the family that got in any kind of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We had alcoholics. We had a little
Wow.
lonely people, and nearly everybody. Mother and Father would take them in, and
Okay.
I don't know how we spread the house to make room for them. But the date, I had a few dates, not very many, and I remember one would sit way across. They'd sit way across the room, and I'd sit at the other end of the room, and we'd talk about.
Same school you were going to?
Memaw went to the high school, but she was very outstanding there, and she was in the senior play, Lady Windermere's fan. Big deal.
Ah.
A great honor.
In 1923, Mary went to the University of Kentucky for college, where she joined the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority and, in her words, got quite a rush at the cadet hops on Saturday afternoons. But it was a guy she met on campus who really stood out, Clifford Anderson Duke, who was born in 1900 in Nashville, Tennessee. He was the son of Laura Anderson Duke of Macon, Georgia, and Charles Buford Duke.
I knew he didn't have any money. He was real hard up, poor thing. And but he could afford a tomato and lettuce sandwich. So every day we'd have lunch together. I'd always order a tomato and lettuce sandwich. And then he didn't have any time to date. He worked at night.
Right.
But he'd call me on the phone and we'd talk for hours.
Then Cliff had to go off to Schenectady, New York to get an advanced degree. Mary finished her schooling at the University of Chicago, getting a degree in home economics, which she then taught in Louisville for a while. During these years of separation, they both passed the time with casual dating.
I said, "Did you ever kiss Lois?" And he looked at me and said, "I had to. She wanted me to so bad."
Okay.
But finally, in 1926, Mary Stofer married Cliff Duke in the Stofer home on Ashland Street in Kentucky. Cliff had just gotten a job with the Electric Power Board, which was later taken over by the Tennessee Valley Authority. So Mary and Cliff took up residence in Chattanooga, Tennessee, temporarily, or so they thought. That's where they met Daisy Posey, Memaw's dear friend and housekeeper for 62 years. After living in apartments for a while, Mary and Cliff noticed a nice area called Riverview. With the real estate help of Sam Chester, the architectural knowledge of Ted Franklin, and the building help of Uncle John, Mary and Cliff built a home on 1315 Lawrence Road.
So one day we came out there and he had whitewashed all the trees halfway up, and you know how tacky that is.
Despite some weird ideas from Uncle John, a beautiful home was built for the exorbitant fee of $13,000. But all this was during the Great Depression, when times were tough for so many people.
And I didn't really suffer during the Depression,
because he had a job, and so many people didn't. And friends of ours would come by the house, and we'd know they were hungry, and they'd give all kinds of excuses, but we'd say, come on and spend the night and have dinner. And of course they would just jump at that chance. And so many of them were just lovely people, but they didn't have jobs. And named Robert, he was just a fine man, and he worked the whole backyard and raised vegetables. And then he took enough home for his family, and then there was enough for us, our family. And so of course we had then plenty of food. I mean, potatoes and carrots and all kinds of things. And that was a tremendous help that Robert could do that. And we paid him $1 a day. Can you imagine?
Meanwhile, in 1929, Cornelia Stofer Duke was born. Connie was somewhat timid, but the neighborhood roughs weren't allowed to get away with everything.
And one day I looked out, and your mother had whelped Billy Ragland by the hair. He had curls, and just pulling as hard as it could, and Billy screaming. And I hollered, go to it, Connie, go to it. He had been so mean to her.
Then in 1933, Nancy Buford Duke was born. Somewhat more outgoing, Nancy loved to lead the parade, in Memaw's words. Both girls were good students and treated with affection by their daddy.
But just he adored them. He was wonderful to them always.
Although a kind, gentle man, one thing everyone remembers about Fafa is his temper. And his slightly stubborn streak. Luckily, none of us inherited that. First Presbyterian Church was a real focal point for life in the Duke family.
The whole Riverview got to church every Sunday night because of Fafa.
And they had wonderful long-term friendships, like with the Polks, the Chesters, Raglands, the Browns, the Lowells, and the Davies. Before long, Connie grew up and went to the University of Chattanooga and UTK. She got her teaching certificate, then became an elementary school teacher. Meanwhile, she had met Mr. Wendell Millard Jones, whom she married in 1953. Nancy went off to the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, then off to New York, then to Atlanta to work. She met another Tennessee boy, Edward Penrose Gould, whom she married in 1956. Then the grandchildren started rolling in. Wendell Millard Jones Jr., or Witt, in 1956, Nancy Duke Jones in 1958, Mary Irene Jones in 1962, Frances Powell Gould in 1960, and Mary Duke Gould in 1962. They grew up and had their own weddings. Witt to Amy Ashmore, Nancy to David Battles, Mary to Othniel McGehee, or Buddy, Fran to Charles Barton Landis, or Bart, and Mary to Benjamin Hershey. After many wonderful years together, Memaw lost Fafa in 1978. It was a sad time for all of us.
He was always just so good to me, and put up, I know, with us an awful lot. And when he had that heart attack that night, when he died, he kept asking, how's Mary? Who's looking after Mary?
Then, in 1992, she lost Aunt Nene. Still, her family has continued to grow, with great-grandchildren aplenty. From the Battles family came Frances Cornelia, or Fran, in 1987, David Carlton, or Duke, in 1990, and Olin Fletcher in 1992. From the McGehee family came Othniel Weaver Jr., or Nate, in 1989, and Alexander Carrington, or Alex, in 1990, with more to come. From the Jones family came William Ashmore in 1992, and Mary Claire in 1994. From the Landis family came Eleanor Gould in 1987, Clifford Anderson Duke in 1992, Frederick Sterling in 1994, and, to be continued, from the Hershey family, just Ellie and Dory so far. Mary Stofer Duke, born May 28, 1904. Just look what she started. Happy birthday, Memaw, from all the people who love you more than we can say.
I think of her controlling her dinner conversations no matter what topic came up. She always kept control. Even if it was a seedy subject, she just managed to turn it to a more proper note.
When I think of Memaw, I think of having pizza at the Pizza Hut and her ordering a beer.
I can't believe Memaw would corrupt my wife by ordering a beer at the Pizza Hut. When I think of Memaw, I think of elegance and intelligence, expert hostessing, and sweetness and love.
You want me to say it now? When I think of Memaw, I think of turkey.
When I think of Memaw, I think of the first time I went to her house. She served wine and cheese, and it was a very elegant time, and she was so gracious to me. I think of how gracious and southern hospitality.
I think of Miss Mary Duke as my grandmother.
When I think of Memaw, I think of Grand Dame.
When I think of Memaw, I think of that she always had gum in the drawer for us.
When I think
of Memaw,
She's my mom.
When I think of Memaw, I think that she's very pretty. Memaw, I like her.
I think of how sweet she was to me when I first met her.
Sweets! I think about playing dress up in the attic and having Cheerios for breakfast and always having a tab where I learned my bad habit from.
When you think of Memaw, you think of
Flying money.
Do I just say what I think of?
Uh-huh.
Thanksgiving.
I get to go to her house all the time.
What do you think of when you think of Memaw?
A game.
What do you think of when you think of Memaw? Thanks, Cliff.
Here's a gun.
Sorry about that, Will.
What I think of?
Okay.
I think she's a real sweet lady. You got it?